A lot of people think a medium only talks to people that have crossed over. It's really communicating with all consciousness and all energy and all forms. But most often, it may start with, I need to know about my person. And it will be very surprising what comes up. Another thing that's interesting about mediumship, people may not know, the person does not have to already be transitioned out of the physical body. Because it's consciousness, it's energy, everything's a frequency and a vibration and a sound, and everybody has their own sound. So you just...
Hi everybody. I am thrilled to introduce to all of you and have on the show Kristine Kieland. And hi. Kristine is an amazing medium. And so we're going to talk a little bit about her history and what she does and how mediumship can be beneficial to all of us. So I'm excited to have this conversation, Kristine.
I'm really excited to be with you. And side note, I've had sessions with Lisa, and she is amazing. She's amazing. So it's wonderful to be with a like-minded, heart-centered person also that can help us, all of us.
Thank you. And thank you for that plug, because that just opens the door to me to be able to say, and I've had sessions with Kristine. She's amazing. Yeah. And it was awesome too. And it was really, I am after, it's so funny because as long as I've been doing this work, I've never had a medium session. And so it was my first experience, and there were some things that happened that were a little bit surprising to me. And there was a lot of healing as well. And it took me a little bit, like during the session, I could feel things shifting and changing, but it took me a couple of days to actually process through, and it was extremely helpful. And so that's, after I had the session with Kristine, that's why I felt like I would love to be able to share what you do and be able to allow people to be a little bit more familiar than, there's so many different reasons why we want to talk to those that have passed. And so I thought this might be a good opportunity to broaden the perspective and kind of help people to find their path and know what to ask, because I went in going, not knowing what to do. And Kristine's first thing is, do you have any questions? Oops. So I was totally unprepared in knowing what to expect. And that's why, then when we got in it, I was like, oh, I should have asked that question. So that's why I wanted to talk to you. So can you give us all a little bit of an idea of exactly what you do?
Yeah, well, basically I help people understand their life experiences, the people they share their life with, and bring in some insight and healing, just like you said. It's like, what is the best information for you to hear right now? How can I be a best service? And it's not just about hearing, is grandma okay? A lot of people think a medium only talks to people that have crossed over. It's really communicating with all consciousness and all energy and all forms. But most often, it may start with, I need to know about my person. And it will be very surprising what comes up. It's not always what people expect. Mm-hmm. I don't tell people things they already know, because you know where you live, and if you have a dog, you know how somebody died or if they were illness. So I get like a deeper answer. I like to go deeper. I let you lead it. So even if you don't have questions, it's okay, because I just tap into you and the people you share your life with. And it could be another thing that's interesting about mediumship, people may not know, the person does not have to already be transitioned out of the physical body. Because it's consciousness, it's energy, everything's a frequency and a vibration and a sound, and everybody has their own sound. So you just listen and you translate. And I meet people where they're at. So obviously you're ready for something unexpected.
Yeah, and that surprised me, because when you did the session with me, I had a living uncle come forward. And I wasn't expecting that. It's like, oh, wow. And there was a couple of other things that we're going to talk about that came forward that just kind of surprised me a little bit as
And
well.
what's so wonderful is we are all connected at all times. And part of this work is helping people determine how you want to be connected to someone. Is it through love? Is it through inspiration? Is it through something less than love? Maybe your uncle shows up because they're nosy or because he really has an affection for you and you didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of reasons. That's why this, I just think this work is so powerful and it's empowering.
It is. And, just understanding what you're saying kind of changes our stereotypical perception of what mediumship is. So let's jump into your history. How did all this start?
Well, as a kid, I was very sensitive and I knew things. I just knew things. I thought everybody knew things. I could hear stories. But through a couple of childhood experiences, you start to discount those, or your focus shifts into more of a survival mode. So that gets put aside. But growing up, my mom was a psychic, and she taught people how to talk to their guides and angels and how to know themselves better. And she traveled around the country teaching people. And she did counseling. She called them counselings at that time. And I really wanted nothing to do with it. I wanted to be the normal kid. I just wanted to be, kind of wanted to be like Leave It to Beaver. I didn't want the weird mom. And looking back, I remember a few years ago, a girlfriend said, "Oh, you really just wanted to be normal, so you turned your gifts off." And what was honestly true is I wanted to be normal and not traumatized. And that's why I turned my gifts off, which is common for many of us, right? So in 2009, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I found the tumor, and I heard, "Sweetheart, you're either doing your work or you're checking out." I had no idea what that meant, but it was very calming, very peaceful. And I just thought, okay, you just go to the doctor. I went to the doctor and I said, I said, "I have breast cancer. There's a tumor right here. It's about this big." And he just looked at me like, "What?" And we just followed the process. And through that healing process, I was able to slow myself down a little bit and allow people to come to me and give me love and support. And kind of like the reading, you don't know the effect you have on people, or you don't know the bigger picture of your life until something slows you down. And Spirit literally hit me on the head, like, "Girl, you gotta pick up the pace here. You are too distracted. You're not doing, we have mission work.
Yeah.
We have a purpose for being here. Every single person has every single person has a reason for being here, and is really to activate love. That is why we're here. And we do it all different ways." So that was how my process started. And then when I was done, I did do treatments and things, and I decided, I kept hearing, be a life coach, be a life coach. I thought, oh, did I make that up? I've never heard that word. So I Googled life coach, and I kept getting the inspiration to go to San Francisco. So I Googled life coaching, San Francisco teaching, and I found a place to go for 6 months. And a woman there was from Chile, and she wanted to be a psychic life coach. And everybody was saying, "You can't be a psychic life coach. Nobody will come to you." And I said, "Sweetheart, if you want to be you do you." And we were sitting one day having lunch, just a brick wall behind us. And she turned to me and she said, "There's somebody behind you." And I knew exactly what she meant. Like, no, somebody non-physical. And the wall just disappeared. It was like the coolest experience. And that morning, we set an intention, or my intention was, I'm a vessel of wisdom, a vessel of knowledge. I saw all these silver goblets, and I don't talk like that, so I knew it was like my higher self and a collective consciousness, not me talking. And so I remembered that, and as I turned around, the wall disappeared, and this little old peasant lady was down, looked like a European boulevard to me, with beautiful olive trees and a dirt floor, and she was wearing a white skirt and a white top, and she just kept coming forward, and she was speaking. It was kind of a mixture, like a bunch of different European languages. And my mom had just passed a couple months ago, and she was standing right there, and she was crying. She said, I couldn't do this. You need to go forward. I was too scared to do the work you need to do, that we committed to do. So talking to her, it was, it felt like it actually felt like it was about 5-6 hours. It was probably 5 or 6 minutes. And then I looked at my friend. I said, "Well, how do I do this?" And she said, "Well, just look at me and tell me what you see." And that's how I started. And I just started reading people in the class. Went home, I told my husband, I'm a psychic. I need to be like a psychic. And he said, good, don't tell anybody. And I said, well, it doesn't work that way. He was very engineer mind, and I was very the other mind. And so I just started telling people. And then the mediumship came in. I was doing something, and somebody that crossed over started coming in. And I thought, oh, people would always ask me, do you separate the two? I don't. It's just information coming forward. Mm-hmm. I know some people only identify as one or the other, which is perfect for them. But for me, I just have an open policy, I guess, whatever's best to come through.
Okay. So you're not limited to the term mediumship. You're a little bit.
It helps people identify.
Yeah.
Helps people find you. And somebody asked me to be on a channel panel one time, I thought, well, I'm not a channel. And they're like, well, that's what you do every day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the terminology can get confusing, right?
It can.
It's your perception.
And it puts it puts people in categories. Yeah. And, and I know that, my term of what I do, I channel information from the Akashic records, but I've seen, entities. I've seen, different things. I get information that is not only from the Akashic field. I think that, like you said, if you have that opening, then you're going to receive because you're in alignment to receive. My records are open now. It's like you remove from that dense body. And so whatever's coming to you, you're able to receive because you're already open to whatever your mind is telling you. I only talk to dead people, or I only get messages this way, or I only attract the Akashic field. No, there's all different sorts that are all vibrations. And if we're open enough, we're going to receive whatever's coming to us. Then it's up to our minds to stay out of it and just allow it to flow.
Right. To remove that doubt.
Right. That's
probably, that was a challenge in the beginning.
Oh, and it is for everybody. I think that's kind of how we start hearing the voices, and we can't discern what's what. And a lot of times our mind will tell us a story and we think it's a message, and vice versa.
And because I had done it my whole life, I didn't recognize a difference until a little bit later. There was a subtle difference. But I remember asking my family after I kind of declared, I said, you mean you don't hear answers? You don't know, you don't like see a big picture around something? And they just looked at me, no, not at all. So I had to learn. Then my mind really kicked in. So I didn't pay attention to anybody else's work. I read one book, Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God.
Yeah.
I went to a bookstore and it just kind of leaped out at me. And after that, it was like, just do you. You have to really understand that the information I'm getting comes purely from me and the communication I'm getting.
Yeah. That is significant. Everything you just said. Number one, I read that book too, and it was
good. Yeah, it's a really good book. It's a good place to get.
Yeah, it's a good one. But exactly what you're saying, I don't listen to other people's information either. I don't read other people's stuff. And we have people, people like you and me that want to learn and want to do more. If you need a foundation and you just need the basic guidelines, hey, go for it. But, I know that the way that I read the Akashic records is very different. The way I receive information, my sources of information are coming from the field, but I have different guides. I think you can get the basic foundation. I was taught the basic foundation, but then you have to maneuver around to what fits you. And if you're so stuck in somebody else's process, it may not fit you.
No, it's like cooking. You may start with the recipe and then, but what I like and my flavor and the way I invest, the way I nurture this with love is I find my way of doing it.
Exactly.
So it becomes a better meal, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And my learning was through doing other practitioners.
Yeah.
Because I started doing healing work and energy work. And it's like, and I would get information myself. I thought, oh, this is how it comes in. This is what it looks like. So they were my inspiration. And it opened up even more and more. But it was to know myself.
Yeah. There's the key. That's the key. Knowing yourself. Absolutely. Yeah, that's good advice. So why do you do the work that you do?
At this point in my life, there's no choice. There's no choice. There's no choice. It invigorates me. But it's not about me. It's it starts with you. There's no way I could not do it, but there is this wonderful, confusing time in humanity right now where we are really evolving at a quick pace. In order to do that, we need to understand our lives, the way we've lived our lives, the people we've experienced it with, and then what do we do with that information? How do we move forward? How do we incorporate more love? How do we know ourselves? And if I can be a support and a guide and a tool for that, man, I'll sign up every day.
Yeah.
I will do this till the day I die.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you said that, because, we're all being put in this position to stand in that truth. That we're here to share love. We're here to show love. And, in the work that you and I do, and the messages that you received from me were very similar to what I typically receive from the records, just in the point of being able to show me love, being able to see that my loved ones, whoever's providing the information, love me, and that I'm okay, and that I'm on the right track, and they're helping me walk down my path. And that's what's changing each one of us. And why we do this work, it's so interesting to think about, the person that's standing up with a book saying, this is how you're supposed to be, this is what you're supposed to act like, this is the way you're going to go to heaven. And if you can't see or understand that spiritual perspective of the truth of who we are, it is so hard for the average human to understand that energy, that thing that's within us, and which is within all of us, and being able to get out of our heads and the words that other people have told us, that conditioning and that processing and the traumas that we've been through that our minds created, and allow all that to be set aside to get into that space of wholeness and completeness.
And one of the most healing aspects of the work I do can be when someone has not had a good relationship with somebody. Mm-hmm. The parent that was abusive or neglectful, or the spouse or the child or the employer, whatever it may be. And the person may come in through the session through their personality and maybe be a little aggressive or rude, and then that's like a tell. The person like, oh yeah, that's I had one gal and she wanted to know about her grandma. I said, oh, your grandma doesn't like you. And she said, I know you're genuine. Because everybody else I've gone to said, grandma loves you and she likes to bake cookies and blah, blah, blah. It's not a, I'm not discounting anybody else, right? We all do it our own way. Mm-hmm. But she needed to hear that so she could start healing.
Yeah.
But the higher perspective that always comes in, well, I should say most often comes in, is the higher perspective of the love. Mm-hmm. Because the souls love each other. It's like, how can we engage this life experience to move us beyond something, a concept you're working on? And maybe you're working on a concept of abandonment. And which side have you been on? You've been on both sides. And how can I participate and come together? And how can we evolve? And that is, I honestly think all my sessions are amazing, because I think everybody I work with is amazing. So it's not about the work I do, it's the people I work with. Like, if people could see themselves and understand themselves the way that spirit does and their higher self, there is no diminishment.
Right.
It is pure love. I mean, sometimes I just cry, happy tears when I'm with somebody. Yeah. And you get these chills, and sometimes you cry for them because they can't get that emotion out. Mm-hmm. So it's knowing how it's like playing with them. It's like playing a violin. I always hear people's energy as a symphony. And when they're a little off of balance, it sounds like, they're not in tune. And then as you work with them, their music gets in tune.
Yeah.
So there's always love.
Yeah. Always. Always, always, always. And how crazy would this earth be if every single human understood that concept? Right. It seems so unreal. It seems like how could this be possible? You and I get it. We understand it.
Yeah.
But what
Why
if
did we forget?
exactly? And how did we get conditioned away from it? You know, and so, you had mentioned this crazy earth when you started the comment about what we're going through this time, but this is where we're going. And this is why you and I are having this conversation so people can hear this message. Maybe you and I will not have a one-on-one conversation with, the majority, well, even a small fraction of the humans that are on this earth. But if they can hear this message and understand that we are all the same, the exterior is the only thing that makes us different. We just look different.
Yeah, your trials and tribulations, your hopes and dreams, your the way you live your life with other people. We operate from a low consciousness, which doesn't operate from love. It's still there, but we don't operate that. We don't understand it. We feel like it's not ours to have, or it's not even a thought. And then a higher consciousness seems to navigate. It's a little bit easier because you're aware of yourself. The more aware you are of yourself, then you have choice.
Yeah, and you're more aware of others too.
Yeah.
And this is what we're moving into. To me, this is my definition of the fifth dimension. Mm-hmm. This is what we're moving through, to be able to let those perceived identities go and get to that point of being able to understand, no, I am this purity. I am this love. I am this energy. This is who we all are. And here we are.
And to get rid of the programming beliefs, that's what comes up in sessions. Is what do you believe to be true about yourself or about this person? Or how can we help you navigate and nourish your life in a way that is uplifting and expansive to you? And there's things to go through, right?
Yeah.
There are things to understand, but it's hard for people to understand. Let me rephrase that. Two things people are afraid of: death, because they don't know that we're just energy, we exist forever. There's no beginning, no end. Mm-hmm. And to truly be yourself with all your abilities, gifts, and wisdom. And Spirit just talks with words we don't use: glorious and magnificent, and and to see yourself through that lens, to know yourself, and truly to accept love at a level that we don't. It's not that people don't have loving lives and loving people in their lives. We don't really understand the frequency. Mm-hmm. When you cry for joy, that's hard to maintain. Yeah. So that's what we're working towards, and we're. It is like boots on the ground, right? You have to do the work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a key. You have to do your work. Absolutely. So how do you receive your information or get your information?
It comes in different ways. Sometimes it's like reading a computer screen. So I just kind of, I'll see, it's actually like coding coming down. And I'm not a computer person, so I'm being told it looks like coding. But you see, it's like it's streaming information that's not in English sometimes. Then I have to translate it. Sometimes it comes in through, I hear a voice. I hear somebody speaking to me. It comes through music. It comes through a feeling. I use all my senses: hearing, sight, sound, taste. It comes through, knowing's probably my highest one. It comes through vision. It comes through tactile. Like, it comes multiple ways. Sometimes it looks like a movie, but it's mostly translating whatever's being told to me. And sometimes it's a different language. One time I was working with a lady and I'm like, I think this is Russian Orthodox, but I don't know because I don't know that language. But I made touch. Oh yeah, that's my grandma and my grandpa always talked in that language, or maybe Portuguese or something, which I can kind of get a feel for what it is, but then I have to translate it into English. Yeah. Or maybe coming from the galactics, or higher, what we call higher source. Not that there's a hierarchy, but different level of consciousness. Mm-hmm. And then I have to translate it.
Yeah. So good for you. Absolutely, it does. Well, it makes sense to me. I hope it does to everybody else.
And I remember the first time I talked to an animal. Yeah. I was like, wow, you can hear that too. I mean, it was so natural, but when I backed to it, I'm like, oh, it's like turning the station. You just tweak it wasn't a conscious happening. Mm-hmm. It just happens as you clear yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you just open the door for the animals.
Oh,
That was a question that I have down my
oh, yeah,
list,
yeah.
but you just brought it up. And, because, well, number one, what language do dogs speak in? How do
They
you
tell me
receive it?
English. Animals, I always
Okay.
get English. I mean, you can hear like dolphins. You can hear their. It's hard for me to translate, but you
Mhm.
know, they just have different rates. But I always translate into English. It sounds
Yeah,
like English to me,
good.
but they have different inflections in their voice. And when I do animal communication, it's about the people that they're sharing
Uh-huh.
their lives with. Very rarely is it about only the animal, but the animal I make it happen to bring their
Uh-huh.
person to a place
Yeah,
of inspiration.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm trying. I have so many questions, so I'm trying to stay on track because that could be a show just by itself.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. So, I'm assuming that if you're speaking to animals, are you are you speaking to their soul? Is that
Absolutely.
okay? So, would you say that all animals have souls?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
Do you think
Different level of
insects?
consciousness, but yeah.
Yeah, insects.
Insects have a different. Um, they're part of a collective soul. If that's maybe a better way to put it. Like the insect kingdom has a collective thought process.
Uh huh. Okay.
Yeah. So, but yes, everything, absolutely everything has a soul.
Hmm.
You cannot differentiate, but
Yeah.
you can differentiate the consciousness.
Yeah.
Does that make
It
sense?
does. Well, it does to
Yeah.
me. Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand. I get it.
Yeah. It's hard for me to like. It's hard for me to move, and it's hard for me to do anything with insects.
Well, and the reason why I'm asking that, is because, when we think about spiders and stuff like that, and, if, especially if you kill them.
And animals, and they that realm doesn't think of death like we do. They just in and out of the body. Like,
Yeah.
this is going to sound really weird, but a fly buzzed by me one day about 8 years ago, and I'm like, oh, and because I used to ask him else, why are you here? Tell me what your experience. He's like, here, I just want to know what being physical is like. So I want to know physical. I want to go from an energy field with a little bit of a consciousness, and 24 hours I get to be physical.
Interesting.
That's what I don't know if that's all flies, but that's what that fly told me.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's pretty much how we operate. We just want to know physicality. We come in, we want to be part of a start as a collective, and then what's the individual? And we think we're individual, but we're not individual. Like, you can go really deep with these conversations. Just like, where do you want to be? So, yeah,
Yeah, well, it's interesting. And, I know that like when I've done sessions with people, they've been lizards, they've been snakes, they've been, and all these different types of animals. We have a tendency to put animals in the domestic, like we only look at animals like in horses and cats and
horse.
what we have as pets, and we forget the animal realm, how big and expansive animals are, and that each one of them has that soul and serving a purpose.
They do, and
So,
many of us share our lives with domesticated pets, right?
yeah.
So they're such a big part of our life. So if you can understand them and have a communication, like I'm just intermediary, and then I can teach people how to communicate
Oh,
too.
nice.
So
Okay.
yeah, I
Yeah.
love the
Good.
animals. I love people too. But I love animals.
Well, and I think animals come from a more, well, not from their head like we do.
No, they work totally from spirit, totally from the
Yeah.
energy field,
Yeah.
the conscious.
Yeah.
Domesticated animals sometimes get a little confusing because they're sharing their energy with people,
Mm.
so they can get not often, but they take on some of our attributes, like health wise and things like that.
Yeah. I've heard that, that animals try to, well, they help us as much as they can. And I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but I've seen basically animals taking on the human's grief, suffering,
Many times, yeah,
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 whatever's, is happening with them, they'll take it
which
on.
is very helpful. But then there can also be a point where you can say, thank you for helping me, but now I'll take the heavy load.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting when we say it
You have
this
to do that.
way. Yeah, it's almost like being an empath. Like
Mhm.
I'm taking on other people's stuff, and having to recognize where to, nope, you need to keep your own stuff. But animals do that without that understanding of separateness.
Yeah, and they do it very generously.
Yeah, yeah.
It's one of their roles for some animals. Yeah, but that'd be a whole nother show.
It can. So anyway, so people often want to know what their soul's purpose is. I get that asked all the time. What's my purpose?
Me too.
And so what do you have to share about that?
Bottom line, it's to know love and be love. It's to know yourself as love. And nobody ever want, well, it has to be more than that. Then we can talk about, like, how are you doing it? What concepts do you want to develop? There's always a deeper question. We may start here, but then we can go out there. But it truly is to know love. And we have experiences that will tell us you are loved or you're not loved. But it's like going inward. But that is really our purpose, is to know ourselves as love.
Well, thank you for confirming that.
Yeah.
Because I get that question all the time too. And that really is what the answer always is. It's not necessarily about you have to have a specific job. You have to do a specific thing. And, you may be put in situations, to have an income. Yeah. And, you may have gifts that you may be more creative. You may be more effective on typing, or, you may be gifted in certain ways. But whatever you do, that purpose is doing it and understanding the love that is within you and providing that love.
You have a preference of how you like to live your life, right?
Yeah.
I prefer to do this, I like this. I have an interest in this. So that may be where my career leads me. And oftentimes people aren't in the right career. It's kind of flat, or it's just what they could do because they don't understand truly loving themselves, mm-hmm. and having choice through love. Mm-hmm. And that's all just part of the human experience. So it's not right or wrong. It's just we evolve through different ways, different experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's probably one of the most significant things that people can truly understand. Mm-hmm.
That you're always loved.
Yeah, exactly.
And it may not feel like it sometimes. And I understand that it will not feel like that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like you back it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to highlight this specific section because, again, it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier about what we're shifting into and understanding this divine love that's within us, and that, that we are love, and that all those around us that are love. And so understanding that concept with the concept of understanding that my purpose is love, then it's the whole complete picture. Okay, here we are again. Yay, humans. Yeah, if we could only just get it and be able to hold on to that thought and that idea and that knowing of that. So what do you think that people who have died want us to know from them? I have another question. I'm gonna come back to that question.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you're talking to people that have passed, are you talking to their souls, or is it just an energy vibration?
It's both.
Okay.
So oftentimes it's their personality, which would be the energy vibration. It's like its imprint. Uh-huh. It's like an imprint. So their personalities in there, the phrases they use, their body language, how they sit, how they talk. It's really like having a conversation with the person that's sitting in the room. Okay. So that's very powerful. That's really cool. And then it may expand into, and again, it's not a separation. You are talking to their soul and this person at the same time. Their soul has an energy vibration. So we like to separate it into different categories, but they're really one and the same. And I will use the language. I'll use the language that makes sense to who I'm talking to. So it's not like I'm not being dishonest, but it has to be impactful for them. It has to make sense to them. Mm-hmm. So for the first time, if I'm talking about something like, a higher, some people don't even never heard the word term of guidance, right? Yep. So it's not dumbing it down; it's meeting them where they're at. Right. Yeah, it's meeting where they're at. But yeah, so it's the energy is just, we are full of energy. I mean, our information is full of. Sorry, start over. Our energy is full of information. And our soul contains that information.
Yeah. And I can see really clearly, I just had that vision when you said that. I can see that computer screen.
Yeah.
And like what you were talking about, all of those letters and words and stuff all on the screen that's full of those information. But I'm curious, coming from my background, let's say a person passes away, 120 years ago, great 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 grandma. Do you still have access to that energy? Yep. Okay, so where is their soul at that time? Has their soul, so let's say their soul has another mission and they're on to the next stage. So
that's what's so interesting. So the personality will show up, even though the soul is doing other things. We do things simultaneously, multidimensionally. All things exist at one time, correct? Mm-hmm. So typically, sometimes it may go back 17 generations. I may be told this, how far back we're going. Sometimes it's further than that, sometimes 5 or 6. But for instance, my dad died about 35, 40 years ago. He comes in as his personality for me. But he's also told me what he's also doing now. But he's already when he's in another body, which may not make sense to people. So you get information on both, and we're not stagnant beings. We're not stagnant energy.
Yeah.
So I'm Kristine now, and that's what I'm focusing on and presenting myself to you as Kristine. But it would be so confusing, right?
Yeah.
To have everything going on simultaneously. That's why you have to know how to focus, I guess, probably the best way.
Yeah. So
does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense, because I can see very clearly that this is almost on the job training.
Yeah.
And it's like the same thing. I think anybody that does this type of work understands that the more that you get into it, you can start seeing the complexities and the different dimensions, and you have to kind of sort through and figure it all out. Yeah. Which is another reason why a book, how to, may just get you started. But as you grow, and again, the more that you obtain, the more that you understand, the more information that will be provided, and you become more and more open. So that
and you're accepting what comes through. And you can tell the difference. People ask me, do I need to protect myself? I don't, because I just live in, I live in a field of love. In my daily life, I may not always, present myself. I may get crabby or something, right? I'm a person. Mm-hmm. But the field you work in, anything less than love isn't allowed in. That's my my welcome signs. You're not allowed in if you're less than love.
Yeah.
You can come in through your highest self and a bit of your personality if you want, but you can't become aggressive or hateful, or if that's helpful for the person for understanding something. But the energy is not hateful. The energy is of love. This is a communication, how to explain our experience together.
That's good information. I'm glad you shared that. Okay, so I asked you the question, what do people that have died want us to know? And then I got sidetracked, so let's go back to that. So what do they usually want us to know?
That they're okay. Yeah. Top foremost, they're okay. Everybody wants to know if they're okay. Yeah. And then that may mean, what do you mean by okay? Because they're we're great.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they love you less. This question is, well, why would you leave me? Why would you leave me? It's an evolutionary process. Mm-hmm. They want you to know that they're okay, that they're aware of you, that they inspire you, that they delight in you, that they support you, that they navigate things for you that is in your highest best way without interference. Although some souls that are still attached to the physical body, they try interference. Mm. So if you have a mom or a friend that's kind of manipulative or bossy, they may still try to do that.
Yeah.
until they get a little bit more insight on themselves, right?
Yeah. I've had that experience. And I've had that experience of, this perfect example is a boyfriend's father, a guy that I was dating at the time. And he had his own agenda. And he was like, you need to stay with him. He needs you. You're good for him. But it was more what I was seeing, I had to process it because I was falling into it. I was quite a bit younger at the time when that happened to me. And then I had to realize that, okay, wait just a minute. This relationship is not good for me, but you dad want me to stay with your son because it's beneficial for
For
him.
his benefit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will tell people, this may be your mom's opinion.
Yeah.
It's your mom's opinion or friend's opinion. Let's see what's best for you now.
Yeah. I
But
think
that
that's
gives them the
important.
comfort of knowing that they're talking to the
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
right? Because that's why they're here. They want some information on the person they're missing, or they're having a difficult relationship right now. The person doesn't have to be dead.
Yeah. 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 Well, I think it's really important to be able to have that clarification too, that we need to be aware of what's for our highest good and what some other personality may be instructing us on.
And one other thing, the people that are around us say, they want us to not grieve.
Yeah.
Which is a hard thing to hear.
Yeah.
And they say the reason we don't want you to grieve is because we want you to understand the reason we had this experience was to highlight something, to highlight an emotion, a feeling, or a concept that you think we provide for you.
Mm.
And you think we leave this gigantic hole. We leave a place for you to walk into, and we never really leave you. We're with you. So you can go down that deep, dark hole, which is okay, and you can stay there. But our preference is for you to see, oh, this is within me. Nothing was taken from me. You're saying of normal grieving. It's not that they don't want you to grieve, but every person I've ever talked to, they don't want their people to grieve. They want you to take whatever you've taken from them, the love, the joy, the excitement, or the disappointment, and work on that and go forward with that.
Mm-hmm.
Just that one thing is.
Yeah. Well, and it's again, it's interesting to be able to understand that we all have our journey, and nobody's going to stay here forever.
No, but grief is a big catalyst, right?
And it
grief
is
a big catalyst, so that can help.
It is. It is. It is.
We exist forever.
Yeah, and we do understand that the grieving process, is important because it's the process of healing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Excuse me. But
so when they say that, they're not saying don't grieve, but it's like their preference. We can see the higher perspective. Like grieve for. Can I share one story?
Mm-hmm.
It's about a whale, actually.
Oh, good.
So a few years, but it relates to people. A few years ago, I became aware of a whale on, I think, the Pacific Northwest, and she had a baby that was either stillborn or died a couple of days after birth. And whales will carry their dead with them for a while. Like she carried the baby on her snout or whatever her nose is called, and she cared for a while. Well, eventually, the Coast Guard, the Navy, Canada, the United States, oceanography, everybody became aware that this mother was carrying this calf for an overextended amount of time from what they would think. It was 10, 13 days. She carried that calf for about 31 days. She wasn't eating. She wasn't really with her pod, but they kept really a good focus on it because they're getting concerned that she would then pass too. And she finally let the baby go, and she came to me and she said, this is how you grieve. You grieve 100%. You grieve with your full heart. You do not distract yourself. Humans, unfortunately, they are discounted from their grieving process. Someone else tells me you'll get 1 day. You get to go to a funeral for 1 day. You get 3 days. You better get back to work. It's been 2 weeks. You better get over it. She said, I am showing humanity everything you do, especially grieving. You live to the fullest, you grieve to the fullest. Nobody gets to tell you that. But when you get distracted, it can take years or it never ends. And then that's just pain, sorrow, and suffering, which is okay from a soul level. It's really okay. It's really okay however we activate or however we do our lives. But there's a better way at times, right? Grieving is not the loss of love. It's the transformation of love from what we think it is and should be into what it truly is. Does that make sense?
Well, it does to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a good thing to touch on. So what do you think that people are the most afraid of?
Dying. But really they're most afraid of not being loved, not being understood or seen. They're afraid of sharing their true self, whatever that may be. They're afraid. I mean, we have a lot of fears, but the basic one, the umbrella is Am I loved?
That's a pretty big one.
It's a big one.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of us, because not also, we have a tendency to always want to be in relationships because that gives us validation. Somebody cares about us, somebody loves us. But again, I think it still goes back to that point of knowing that we are loved too, and that we are loved. It may not be in the same way that our mind has created the story to be, but we're loved in a number of different ways through billions of beings.
Yeah. And you can tell when someone's afraid of love, like there's some tells in just a very simple way. It's not everything. When people are sarcastic or tease you or humiliate you, or, there's kind of this funny way of being with people, just kind of tease them a little bit. Oh, you're too sensitive. They are afraid of love. They haven't experienced it in a way that their soul wants them to, and so they reject it sometimes because it's not a comfortable feeling. So then you project out what you're feeling, your inner turmoil, and most people aren't aware enough that they're feeling that. So yeah, it's really interesting to watch people and watch entertainment where we are right now.
Yeah,
because it's really a lot of less than love. Yeah,
absolutely. So, what do you think is the best way to handle unpleasant events or traumatic events?
And I thought of it this morning, but the best way first, allow yourself some grace. Allow yourself to have the emotions you're feeling without judging them, without judging your thought, without judging your emotions, without judging others. Now, that can take a lot of intention, a lot of practice. Someone asked me this the other day because they're discovering some uncomfortable information. And what do I do with that? And you bring in what is supportive to you. So maybe people, it may be some professional help. This particular person wanted to know what a crystal help. I said, absolutely. You bring in what makes sense, but you always lead with love. What is there for me to understand here? Is this what I hear from spirit? There's tragic. People consider things to be tragedy or traumatic. Spirit doesn't see it that way. What can we be curious about? Well, when you get something that's really unsettling for you, don't walk away from it. Do not walk away from it. Lean into it. It's hard to lean into it. We can find 1,000 distractions, right? It doesn't go away. So you lean into the uncomfortable and you get support to lean into that uncomfortable and resolve it. And it's not a one and done. It's typically not a one and done. It's a process. And we are really good at dumbing ourselves down, cognitive dissonance, right?
Yeah. About
ourselves and about the world, about other people. But what is the bigger? It's not, I don't see it as lessons or a punishment. It's not a punishment. Where's my growth through this? How do I understand this? Again, is it that limited perspective that we talked about earlier, or is there's a greater truth in here?
Yeah. So we're on the same page. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that people that are just starting this journey and really just kind of starting, maybe just figuring out that I'm not happy and that something needs to change, and being able to look at old patterns or behaviors and being able to do just what you're saying. When we talk about doing your work, we're talking about figuring out, well, what is really making you unhappy? What is really holding you into this belief system that is creating chaos in your life? Or, all of these patterns that we keep repeating, where is this all coming from?
And that's the first thing, you have to be aware.
Yeah, and becoming aware and understanding that doing your work to track down that pattern and where it originates from, and then being able to do just what you said, sit with it, work through it, and then allow it to be released. And then we move into being that place of contentment and happy. And I think that's my new mantra. Get happy.
Get happy.
Get happy.
Get happy. And the more you do the work, when things that appear in your life that are unsettling or uncomfortable, it's more of an observation. Well, this is occurring. Mm-hmm. I can be the peace and the calm and the love in the room and the delight. I can hold that space. We and others can hold that, because things do happen. Mm-hmm. They will continue to happen. But to love, to be happy, to be delightful.
Yeah. So I just have a couple more questions. One question is soul contracts. So in the work that you do, and do you ever come across the understanding that souls were family members were agreed upon? So explain that.
You have to have contract. You have agreements. People don't understand though that you can break the agreements. You don't have. They're not written in stone for the rest of existence, because we exist forever. Mm-hmm. But they're a way to help us navigate and kind of focus. What do we want to experience now? So I see a soul plan, kind of looks like a whiteboard, and I may see different concepts or different people come in, and we have great, big, gigantic soul families. We have maybe, I see sometimes 300 or 600 people or thousands, but really focus into who are we really sharing our life with right now? It's not just the lady at Target that crosses your lane, but how do we benefit each other? And in there, it almost looks like Post-it notes, or like a Venn diagram, a family tree. You'll see that. But sometimes you'll find, I'm sure you're doing the work too, well, you made a vow 1,600 years ago. You don't need to do it now. You don't have to keep that. But that's the awareness is, is it my back? I've had a backache forever. That's an agreement you made to somebody. I'll take on their pain, sorrow, and suffering, or whatever it may be. Or I worked with one gal, and she had made agreement to never have children, because about 800 years ago, it was an unpleasant experience. There's a long story there. But we had to look at that and say, you don't have to hold that contract to yourself anymore. That experience is done and gone. Let's bring it to the present day. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they are real, but they don't, they're not as limited and confining as I think some people may think they are.
Yeah. And when we do have free will.
Absolutely.
We can, I was told way back when I first started doing this work, and somebody did a reading for me, and they were telling me about, well, this is what I'm seeing, but you recognize you can change the future anytime.
And that would be surprising, because, I'm sorry, somebody might say, well, you've agreed to do this for me. I don't understand. I'm like, but they also have free choice to you're not holding your end of the bargain.
Yeah.
One conversation I had with the couple is they had multiple miscarriages, and they couldn't figure out why. And I said, well, it's the same soul, and the dad has agreed to clean up his act, basically. And he would get sober for a couple months. They get pregnant, and they start drinking again. And the baby's like, I'm not coming in, because this is not the family I want to be raised in.
Yeah.
These are not concepts I want to develop for myself. So I'm going to give you about another 2 years, and then I'm going to switch families. And then I do my thing and I leave. About 6 years later, I heard from that couple, oh yeah, we've got 4 children now. Daddy cleaned it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's probably not 6 and 4, but yeah.
Yeah. But that's actually making my head itch. So, but it is interesting when people like you are available to help people find their way. And I think that, the work that we do, it just makes me so frustrated, I guess, or sad that people look at the work that we do as a game. It's just for fun, and not really truly understanding the depth of what we do, and that we take our jobs very seriously, and that what we can do can change lives and bring that peace and joy. And it's not a game. No. It's sacred work.
And it doesn't need to take years.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just talk dirt. It's really information that expands you and puts you. There's so much information coming right now, but it's important. It's really important work.
It is. And I'm so grateful that you're doing your work. And so thank you for doing that, and everybody else that does this work from the intention of their heart and from that love space. What a great service.
Right?
Yeah.
People like to find us, but
Yeah.
the labels are limiting.
Yeah, absolutely they are. They are. So before we go, what is the last final thing that you would want people to know?
I want you to be able to see yourself with love. I want you to be able to look in the mirror and tell yourself that I love myself. I see myself. I'm delighted with myself. I encourage you to find 2 or 3 times during the day where you can take an action that is self-loving. That may take a lot of practice, a lot of awareness, ooh, that doesn't feel good. What does self-loving even mean? It can just mean you're making a choice for yourself. Yeah. You have a preference in everything. You have a preference in what you eat, who you spend your time with, what clothes you wear. So pay attention to where you're really, I want people to leave with, pay attention to yourself. Pay attention to yourself and recognize where you're putting distractions in your life.
Yeah.
Neither good or bad. It's just awareness.
Yeah. I like that.
Tell yourself daily, I love myself. It makes a big difference. And people say, isn't that a lie? No, it's not.
No. Yeah. Well, those are good words to end with. So how can people contact you?
I have a website. It's KristineKieland.com. And if you'd like to book a session with me, there's a special going on right now just for Lisa's show. And you can book with the coupon Akash24.
Oh, good. Thank you.
I like to honor everybody with that.
Yeah. And you also have a podcast.
I do have a podcast with another gal, and it's Intuitive Conversations. It's on Apple and 5 or 6 different streaming systems, but you'll find that on my website also. Okay. And we talk about everyday daily lives and how your intuition and your spirit and love can help guide and navigate you to a better understanding and a more graceful, peaceful life.
Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah.
Well, you're welcome. And I think that you have valuable information, and I honor you. And thank you for being here. I truly appreciate it. And for all of you guys, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.